Aaron Squire coming to you guys again. We've got episode 107, and I did some sort of play on words with Hoogland's name, and I can't remember. But this is Jeff Hoogland here, the famous Master Jeff Hoogland, here to join us for the show. And tonight on Deck Build with Squire, we are going to talk about a lot of updates. We're going to build some sort of a Primordial Caves deck. We've got a little bit of a problem with the 5 Shards tournament that we have to discuss, well, or just mention. And that's going to be the show tonight. I think it's going to be a great show. Jeff, welcome to the show. How you doing?
I'm happy to be here. I'm going to correct you really quick, though. It's Hoogland, long O.
Hoogland. Oh, my goodness.
It's okay. Everyone does it. I don't even correct
actually
people
spelled
sometimes.
it wrong, too, at first. Like, I put a U in there. I'm sure you've had that happen, too, haven't you?
Yeah, it's funny. The one that really gets me is occasionally when people announce my last name for stuff, they say Hoogland, and it's like, come on, that's my one's not even phonetically correct. Come on.
All right. So how'd you find Hex? How'd you get into Hex?
So I was helping Adrian Sullivan test for an upcoming Pro Tour, and we were just like, after a long day of whatever, we play more games, obviously, and he had it on his laptop, and he was like, check this out, and we sat there and BS with it for a little bit. I was like, this is kind of sweet. And after he left, I picked it up and played around with the campaign for a little bit, and I was kind of hooked.
Sweet. Yeah, well, so it worked. That was like their whole game plan going into it. I don't know if like back in the day, that was like, they said, well, we want people to start playing the PvE and get in, and that's the free-to-play portion. And then when they get, when they're wet their whistle enough, then they'll go for the PvP, and then, for the competitive players especially. And that it worked. So the game plan worked, right? So you were a Magic Pro of sorts, or like what's your background or in TCGs?
So I've played Magic for a long time. I started playing casually with the release of Apocalypse back in 2001, and then starting about 4 years ago, 3.5, 2013-ish, I started playing competitively on the SCG tour, and I've had a lot of success with that. And once I started doing well in events, I started producing some content, writing and videos and stuff like that.
Right. Sweet. Well, that's pretty much it. And of course, now you do content for the Hex main website once in a while. They picked you up for that. So do you mind going through like how that happened or how you got picked up for that? That's kind of exciting.
Yeah, I was really excited for that opportunity. So it's funny, I was after Adrian got me into the game, it kind of felt natural, like I was writing about Magic stuff, so I felt like I wanted to write about the Hex stuff as I was discovering it, and I actually wrote a couple of things for Hex Primal, and then Adrian Sullivan was like, hey, you want me to talk to my person at Hex and see if they want you to write for the main site, and I talked to them, and then now I'm writing twice a month for them.
Sweet. That's awesome. That's a great deal. So awesome. So let's go ahead and do the YouTube giveaway real quick. So I'm excited to say that I actually get to step up the dice this week from a 6-sider to an 8-sided dice. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then here comes my son to say something to me. Are you saying goodnight, Elliot? Is that what you're doing? We're not doing stories tonight. It's Dad does his show on Fridays, remember? Okay? Oh, okay. I know. He's got a really sad face right now. But the second person has won, and it is Pierre-Luc Audet. And so I will reply to them, and you win a draft pack. I just need to get your IGN. Get me your IGN. It's not such a big deal for everyone at home. He does get a story every other night of the week. So 6 nights a week he gets a story. This is Dad's night. This is, just saying. So that's exciting stuff. So one thing happened, a little bit of a hiccup with the 5 Shards Lixil tournament. The first tournament was going to be on July 4th, but it didn't work out. So everybody can go and watch fireworks now. So I think that's good for most Americans, at least.
I was going to double queue the fireworks in the Lixil Cup, though.
We're going to do it. So I don't know. I mean, were you kind of bummed out about this, Jeff?
I think the Lixil is a great tournament. One of my biggest complaints about the weekly tournaments was always that I hated that they weren't a Swiss tournament, because especially I feel like your free tournament should really encourage players to play more. So like getting in them for 4 rounds guaranteed, where they didn't have to really commit anything but could still win stuff. I think that's great, and it'll draw some more people into the constructed portion.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the Spectral Acorn. So Jeff said his wife is more into the PvE stuff, so he didn't have a lot of visibility on this. But for everybody else that also doesn't remember, we've got these Spectral Acorns that they promised way back in the Kickstarter, like 3 years ago, and they're finally going to be coming out soon, maybe in the next patch when we get the ladder and other stuff. Originally, the Spectral Acorn, you would cast it, and for 0, put it on the table, then you could exhaust it and get 3 resources, and then it would turn into a 3/1 troop. It's recently changed into this Mystic Squirrel, which was going to just draw you a card when it came into play type of thing. They've recently made a change on that, but their big thing was, the biggest thing I think was the important part was, they made it so when it enters play you draw a card off of it. So you don't actually have to exhaust it. So when you're playing PvE and you have it in your deck, because once you changed it into the Mystic Squirrel, it's there forever. Sometimes you just don't want to use that ability. You want to save it for like that last big boss, and it's only usable in PvE. So I think that's very important. They also changed the Mystic Squirrel, instead of just drawing you a card, which is kind of lackluster, into just create a random legendary card, put it in your hand, and it has to meet the threshold requirements of what you have in play. So I think that also adds a lot of value to that. You're going to be able to pick these up on the auction house from people that were in the Kickstarter. They can sell these on the auction house. This is supposed to give them some income, so either gold or platinum, for all those people that believed in Hex way back when. So this is supposed to be their little bit of a kickback. Jeff, what do you think about this?
I think it seems sweet. It's neat design space. You know, one of those things that like we can only do because these aren't actually paper cards.
Yeah. The other things is they added on a new ability, which is Spectral. So when it does change, or when the Spectral Acorn comes into play, it can't really be destroyed by anything. It can't be converted into anything. So they really wanted to protect your investment with the card, because once it transforms into that Mystic Squirrel or does other things, or if other things can't be transformed into a Spectral Acorn accidentally as well, it's completely excluded from any other transformations. But yeah, like once it transforms into those other cards.
Oh man, I can't transmog a 1-drop into this. That would make that card so much scarier.
Yeah, but if you transmogged your 1-drop into this and it's like a rare card, and then you decided to use it to make the Mystic Squirrel, then it's permanently a Mystic Squirrel forever. So that's why they excluded it from that. Makes sense. I mean,
yeah, definitely.
It is interesting that you can get PvE cards from random transmogs or transmutes and different things when you're playing in PvP. That's like the one way to access PvE stuff in PvP right now. Moving on, we've got the tournament ticket updates. We've got the daily constructed entry ticket and the constructed queue entry tickets turning into evolving sealed entry tickets after this next coming patch. We've also got a daily sealed entry tickets turning into sealed gauntlet entry tickets, and you're gonna get these, you know, if you had an issue and you had to submit a ticket, or maybe you did a special event and they gave you tickets. That's how you would have gotten these to begin with. So this is gonna affect not that many people, but at least you're not losing your tickets. Jeff, you have a ticket, right? What do you have?
Yeah, I think I had I don't think I still have it, but I had a gauntlet ticket at one point.
Right. So I mean, this just makes sense type of thing, really.
Yeah, basically just like clean up instead of, which is great because, like, you know, that other digital game, I've had things rotting in my account that haven't been useful for years.
Sure. Sure. Next, we've got some quality of life updates for Hex. So we've had the interface we've had for, I don't know, maybe a year and a half now. Like there was a couple of updates right away, and then it's been quite a while since we've seen some of this stuff. So they're just trying to make the game a lot more accessible to new players. So they're changing the buttons, they're making them more visible, much larger. They're more verbose in what they're telling you. They explain things better. Jeff, what's your favorite thing about some of this stuff that's going on?
I think the biggest thing I like is the moving of the resolution button, which they have a screenshot of a little bit lower. I think that, you know, people, I like to say, get into like autopilot mode where you just like keep bumping the prompt and bumping the prompt and bumping the prompt, and if the prompt moves, you're less likely to bump through something that's more important.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's very, very true. Yeah. So something I talked about was, and I know this is basically a noob mistake, right? But what will happen sometimes is that you will basically go to your combat phase and your opponent will just sit for like 30 seconds or like, you know, maybe even 40 seconds. because what they want you to do is you get itchy, right? You're like, come on, let's just go to combat. I'm ready to go to combat, and they'll hit it real fast, and you'll go to combat, and you'll skip your combat phase because you were just anticipating starting combat, and so you accidentally hit your space bar or whatever. So this will make that hopefully much less likely to happen, and I think that's great for all those newer players. That's pretty much it. I mean, it's very nice. I like what they did. I think it's going to be just a good step in the right direction for those new players that aren't used to the system.
I think it's even good for people that have been playing for a little while, just like clarifying what this is going to do when you click it, like instead of the pass priority saying what we're passing priority to, essentially.
Yeah, Yassi is telling me it actually happened to him, and he's lost because of it. I've definitely lost because I've passed priority on combat phases. Moving on, we've got Questmas coming up, which is a Midsummer's Eve type of questing thing. You'll log in, do some different stuff to get things. This is going to happen every year. They're promising this is going to happen every year, so this is kind of like our midsummer thing. A lot of times, right before Gen Con, there was some build-up, and they've usually opened things up so that way, even if you're not at Gen Con, you can earn cards. This is like almost like a pre to that, or this might be in conjunction with that. You know, of course, Gen Con is in August. We've got July, the end of July, then August. Sometimes it's the end of July. But just for logging in, you're going to get this awesome sleeve with this, what is that? That's like a Minotaur on it, right?
It's the Impulse AA.
Yeah, it's there. And then for playing any tournaments whatsoever, you're going to get the Impulse AA. But I think Jeff's favorite one down here is this Entras Settlers. So I'll let him explain this one because he explained it to me so well.
Yeah, so this card's kind of sweet. And it's, again, I might even play some PvE just to get to play around with this card. So the Settlers, it comes into play, and then it creates another card which allows you to choose from several other cards to create, and kind of a homage to Settlers of Catan inside of your PvE game.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a lot of fun. I would just have fun playing this card to just, oh, let's play Settlers on, you know, kind of Settlers while you're playing Hex, right?
Yeah.
And then down here, this tiny little thing, you know, it's just almost infinitesimal at the very bottom, you know, ladder patch is coming, so.
By the way, after all this other stuff, this really big thing is going to happen.
Yeah. No one's excited about this bottom one. Just ignore this. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the constructed metagame before we move on. We aren't going to be building a super competitive deck tonight, but we'll talk a little bit about this. Now, Jeff spent a little bit more time studying and getting up to date on things. I actually failed pretty hard last weekend when I tried to build my own, what do you call it, deck? It was a Winter Moon deck. I was using some similar stuff to what's in this deck, but of course Boris Blast Forge combos crazily well with your Hierophant when he has Spell Shield and creates Rhinos, although I didn't see this deck last weekend. But yeah, I mean, this deck, I'm not sure I like Young Seer. I think that's one of the only cards in here I'm not a big fan of in this deck.
That card's so bad.
Yeah, I just don't
funny.
get it.
I built this deck for my wife, and the very first thing I did was cut the 2 Young Seers. It's so high variance.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 1/2. Play something else. Like there's got to be something else where, like, I understand you're trying to play like maybe Crow Feather faster or double your Cyclone Shaper. I also don't especially like Cyclone Shaper because I just feel like there's just not a lot of targets for it in this deck, and you aren't shuffling things in like you are with the Winter Moon deck.
You're not reusing the benefit, which is huge. I always like to send a message in chat whenever their Young Seer hits like their Howling Brave. Such a powerful card.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I like Cyclone Shaper's body in this deck. That's probably what I like the best. A 4/6 flyer, amazing. But it just feels bad when I don't get the full benefit of, you know, the all the actions, and I feel like this is much better in some sort of Winter Moon shell, but that's probably why there's only 2 of them. Anything else you want to mention about this deck?
that configuration that he's got there. The one, I guess, one thing for to know when you're playing it that's not super intuitive is the other Sapphire decks, and even this one has a Mass Poly Dingler in the reserves. You should always bring in your Lullabies against opposing Mass Poly Dingler decks, because if after they Dingler you, you can Lullaby yourself to revert all of your troops back to their original state.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's pretty sweet. That's a nice little piece of deck tech there. The other thing I think I like in this deck is, and I think a lot of people aren't thinking outside the box with Hierophant, is you can target it, right? Spell Shield just means your opponent can't target it. So there's a card way back in set 1 that was +1/+1 in flight permanently. And I feel like that needs to make its way as like a one-of into a...
No, wait, there's a better card, right? It's a 2-cost gains flight permanently draw card. That's got to be way better than 1/1.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's very true.
I played like two things of limited, and I remember playing that card. And I was like, Cloud Walk. That's what it is.
All right. Yeah, they're telling me that you're really loud, so I turned you down a little bit. So hopefully that'll be better. Okay. Please let me know in chat. The top guy, by the way, is Jeff Hoogland, and if you aren't following him, you probably should get over. And I didn't let him plug his stuff, so I should probably let him do that.
You're fine. We'll get around to it. We got plenty of stuff to talk about.
But if you just Google him, I'm sure he'll come up. So moving on, we've got the Mono Ruby aggro with Boulder Toss, Burning Tendrils. This is one of my favorite new removal cards, by the way, Burning Tendrils. A lot of duplicitous Dukes in here, Heroic Outlaw with Destruction, of course, and Ferocity. So it's just really trying to like burn out your opponent. Hypnoscientist is another famous one. One of the cards I feel like should be in here is your classic, what's it called? You get 2 attack phases. Man, I'm just losing it tonight. Basically, it gives you 2 attack phases, and all your stuff gets +1 front end. Gore Feast of Cogtepital. The problem is you don't have the card draw to support that. So maybe it's fine like it is.
Yeah, the rough part about cards like Gore Feast is that they're the type of card where like they rarely win you a game you weren't already winning. You like already have to have a reasonable board presence and stuff like that. And like Soul of Battle's much more of a surprise kill you card, I think.
Sure. Yeah, Soul of Battle, probably maybe does better job than Gore Feast is definitely better when we used to play what was his name? Falconer, and Falconer hasn't seen play in forever just because there's just so many answers to him.
And one of the really neat things with Soul of Battle actually is with the Heroic Outlaws, you can target it in response to its enter the battlefield trigger, right? Can you respond to that? I forget.
If you hold control,
you can't hold priority in Hex, right? So maybe I'm wrong.
You have to hold control or alt or something. It's that's a tech thing that's not very intuitive. And
I thought they got rid of the ability to manually hold priority.
Oh, they got rid of that? Oh, okay. Because they were talking about that on the Threshold podcast. That's what it was. Yeah. So
I couldn't remember. It's weird. Some of the things it stops and some of the things it doesn't.
Yeah. So maybe you'll get lucky and your opponent will try to respond to your.
Yeah. So if they respond to it, you can then Soul of Battle.
In which case you'll be like, "I'll stack more damage, please."
Yep.
Thanks. I don't know if there's very much else to really go over here with this one. Seems pretty straightforward to me. I love the Sting Shot Sniper. After you highlighted that in one of your decks, I had to tool around with it, or I had to mention it at least. It was maybe it was 2 weeks ago. In the
Sting Shot with Lionel Flynn is just so dirty.
Yeah, I love that card. Moving on, we've got Uzu Necrotic. Now, I played against this one last weekend, and I had a really long Game 2 against it, where I won, and then eventually I lost in Game 3 with the deck that was not that great last weekend. But this is a fairly interesting deck, and Jeff showed me that it's getting a little bit better numbers than the Uzu Cannon deck, and yeah, I mean that's fairly interesting. I found out the power of Transmogrified last weekend. That really hosed up my plans a lot. So,
yeah, definitely. I think if Transmography didn't exist in the format, this deck would just probably be the best by a lot. Like, the fixing is just so good that you have to play all these busted cards.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, I'm going to play whatever I want to, and then high Infinitrix for the win. It might as well just be called Uzu Infinitrix or something like that, because that's really what you want to do. And you just Infinitrix and throw things on Lixil. Right. That's pretty much what happened, and then I lost. Moving on, Wild Diamond mid-range. I haven't really seen this one too much, but I'm not surprised. It's interesting it's running Forever's Child in here. Some people felt like this card was a little bit underpowered because it's double Diamond and double Wild, and they felt like you weren't going to get really large Orkans. But when you consider you're playing like Arborean Rootfather, and when it comes to play it gives you 8 life, that means you're going to get an 8/8 Orkin, which seems pretty good. You get 2 8/8s for the cost of 1, and that one only costs you 7, or maybe even 5 sometimes.
Yeah, and the important thing to remember with a card like Forever's Child is that, you don't have to play a bunch of bad cards alongside of it for it to be good. Like, even if nothing else in your deck gained life, which this does have other things that gain life, like it's self-enabling. It just like attacks and doesn't die in combat. It makes you a 4/4, which is still a fine exchange.
Yeah. The Sight of the Sun could get you a ton of stuff too. Soul Marble. It's got a lot of things where it just plays a lot of really big dudes in here. I think that's pretty much what it does, and of course it gains that life, so it may go to the long game. If it gets swept out, maybe then it loses. But
the other important thing to recognize about this deck too is that you moused over Runir there, like it's a turn 2 Runir Hierophant deck, but it's also a Runir Hierophant Infinite Tricks deck. So you think putting Infinite Tricks on Lixil is good. Try putting like a flying, life-draining Hierophant. They die very quickly and just...
Yeah. Like we said before, there's a lot of different ways we can get Hierophant into the air or get it some sort of evasion, and Infinitrix does that quite well. The one deck I did win against actually tried to just give Hierophant flying with a diamond, or I'm not diamond, with the sapphire gem. And I feel like that's the wrong way to go, just because you miss out on him being immune to removal. I didn't really have a lot of removal in my deck, so it worked fairly well for him. But eventually I did win that matchup. So I feel like that's the wrong way to go. It's pretty much you play the Rhinos and you play the what do you call it? The untargetable gem.
Yep,
That's pretty
spell
much
shield.
what you do. Yeah, the spell shield. That's pretty much it. I don't know, Jeff. Have you run into anything where you feel like in a specific configuration there's another way to play Hierophant that's better right now?
Yeah, definitely. And one of the reasons why Hierophant and the socketed cards are sweet is because you can change them. So a good example is the Kagulichu mid-range deck that it's fallen a little bit out of favor now, but I spent a lot of time playing that. And
oh yeah, I remember you posting that one.
In like the Kagulichu and like Blood Mirrors, I much preferred to put the grave digging gem on the Runir Hierophant, which was nice because that way when the Hierophant was hitting them, the value you were getting out of it was being returned to your hand. So that way when they eventually had to extinction your board, you had more things to flood out as opposed to the extinction cleaning up all the value that the Hierophant had generated.
Yeah, back when I originally said that Shinhair were going to make a huge splash, and then full Shinhair decks were going to be like really big, which I probably ate my words on. That's originally like one of the gems I did put in Hierophant, but I think I left it open. I'm trying to remember. No, I did put it. I did put Spell Shield and I did put the Grave Digging on. That's right. Yeah, I just needed to find a better configuration. But yeah, I kind of ran into similar things in that deck. I just didn't have as good a configuration as you did. Ruby Sapphire actions. This is another one where I kind of want to see this in action. I understand how it's playing out. I'm just surprised that Flickering Gobbler is so good in a deck like this. It just, I don't know. It just feels underwhelming. I guess it's really hard to remove because your opponent, you only get it on their turn. So if you don't have instant speed removal, you can't deal with it. Or if you don't have counter, you can't really deal with it. Or some sort of blocker.
Yeah, it's all right. Sometimes, like you said, it's hard to enable consistently. Like the deck has obviously a density of actions, but sometimes you run out and then like your Flickering Gobbler just like this 2-cost deal 3 to them. That's like kind of this awkward crackling bolt.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it almost feels like it might be better to play maybe 2 Flickering Gobblers and like 2 what's the one that just you play multiple actions. Ah, my goodness, it's a bad night for me already. I'm just actions. Kindling Scarn. It feels like Kindling Scarn might be a little bit better as maybe a 2 of in there instead. to
The
me.
tough part about Kindling Skarn is just like transmogrifate is so prevalent in the
Oh
decks that
yeah,
are being played right now that like one drops are basically unplayable. I think like if the one
sure.
drop has to be like Howling Brave and get value immediately to be anywhere close to even being considering being registered. It's funny that Van Meter probably submitted this article before this happened, but in the last probably week or so, I was streaming with, and Sirius has been streaming, and a couple other people have been putting up results with a build of McBombus doesn't have any Phoenixes or any Skarns in it. We're playing Starcaller Ancients to abuse the Prophecy cards that this deck's playing anyways, and then just more burn.
Right.
You ever Starcaller Ancient a Ragefire that Thunderfield Elder hit? You just like it's insane.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's stupid. That's stupidly good. That's why that's legendary. And it's on curve. You know, a lot of things that are playing those Thunderfield cards are just we're missing that 2-drop slot. So maybe I should be trying this in that other deck that I've been playing. I actually tried to play an Infinite Rhinos deck for a little while, where I went more all in, and maybe that's what I should be playing. Is I should try that out.
Yeah. The Starcaller curve, where you go Starcaller into Lanupla's site, and like if they don't kill the Starcaller on their third turn or second turn or whatever, if you double the first card that has draw a card on it, the game basically ends on the spot.
Yeah, that's pretty ridiculous. And yeah, I was having trouble with my 2-point range. Finally, the one on here that is being posted, as and we did mention that before this, that Uzu Cannon didn't make this list, and we kind of, I scratched my head on that one. We'll mention it after this, but Ruby Blood Darkspire, which Jeff, you just recently posted an article about this, and I watched you play the deck. Seems fairly strong in the metagame. I don't know that there's very much else to really say. It's got disruption. It's got it's got a nice end game with the Gallows Ghasts. It's got good removal with your Zigmund's game. I like how the Zigmund's game combos really well with the Darkspire cards as well as your Inquisitor, which of course is a throwback to set 1. He's always been good. But yeah, I mean, what did you think of when you played the deck?
It was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. It's definitely more consistent than I was expecting. The really only thing that gives it a lot of trouble is the card closed coffins is a real beating. Like these colors just don't have the cards you need to interact with constants that hit the board.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could run a really old one. You could run
Chaos Key is what we ended up. It's like, and then like Chaos Key at least is like acceptable in that it exiles Lixil as well. So
yeah.
like, it's like kind of dual purpose, but the one thing that's worrying about, like, so this configuration here that you have pulled up, the Bombus and Boros have both been increasingly popular. And like this configuration craps on Boros, but like the Bombus deck, your Heat Waves and your Extinctions, you just get like beat down by Flickering Gobblers and just can't do anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, and Zigmund's game doesn't really respond well to it.
Correct. Game is miserable against Bombus.
You just don't have you have kill, and kill may be too slow, and it doesn't deal with the Hierophant. The burn is kind of helpful.
Yep.
Crimson Bolt's okay. Yeah. Probably like in those matchups, you just hope to hit a lot of your early Inquisitions, and then maybe run something else. Maybe run the new card that you can cast for 4 to discard. What's it called? It's an Empower card. Maybe I should look Empower.
I'm blanking on. I'm not sure which one you're talking about.
It's an Empower card. It costs 2. You can double it, and then you make them concuss. And maybe concuss. Maybe like 2 concuss in the reserves, and that might help. But if you can discard fast enough, if you can play enough discard. But the problem is, of course, they get to choose, so maybe that doesn't work.
Yeah, you could play like something like Withering Touch, but like again, the problem is like the decks that are playing closed coffins, if they're not like on counter magic as well, discard off the top in the late game just becomes really bad against a lot of those decks.
Oh yeah, for sure. Last but not least, it's not on the list, but Uzu Cannon not really putting up the points that some of the other ones is. I think it's still good. I would like to play that deck. I still haven't played that deck. I actually haven't played that much Hierophant lately either. I don't know. I typically like to. I look at a metagame and I see something that's majorly being played, and I'm like, well, how can I beat this? So I'll try to play something else. But I should probably at least try Hierophant just to get a good feel for what it's doing in the metagame as well. Anything to talk about with Uzu Cannon, or mention, like, why do you think it isn't taking the real estate that it used to in the metagame?
Well, I think part of why the Uzu Cannon was doing so well is people really didn't understand what was going on. Like, it's funny, I actually lost in the top 4 of the first weekly that the Uzu Cannon won to the Uzu Cannon deck, and I just he was like this mono wild deck, and then like on turn 4 all of a sudden he got 2 different thresholds and I died, and I was just like, oh, that was okay. I didn't realize we were playing around that. And just, the decks like that are especially the linear decks, if people don't understand where they're coming from, they're much more difficult to play against.
Right. Okay, and we are on to the deck build. So today we're going to look at Primordial Caves. So Primordial Caves is a 3-cost constant, and I actually watched Jeff play against this when I was out at Chick-fil-A with the kids today. It says, when a troop enters your hand, secretly add a roar counters to this equal to the card's cost. If there are 10 or more, remove them all and create a random dinosaur and put it into play. So the thing that Jeff pointed out to me is that's really important here is that you get to add counters to this whenever a troop enters your hand, which means you don't just have to draw them, or you basically you can bounce things to your hand as well. So
yep.
Sapphire seems like a decent choice here because it does have a lot of bounce. We also maybe could go Blood and do a lot of Resurrection or something like that, and then get cards back into our hand that way. And of course the Archon of Nulzann combos really well for this because we can discard it if it's in your hand for 2, and then we put 6 counters on Primordial Caves. So it's kind of cute in that way. We can also tool up multiple different Archons if we want to have them deal with different situations, like with different gems. So we can search out the one we want. But just like Jeff was pointing out in his cast, you typically are not going to just play Archon in this deck. You're going to want to discard it.
Yeah, and I think, well, one of the reasons why I think this deck this combo could be reasonable is that casting the Archons isn't completely unreasonable. So like you're not going to be super embarrassed when you draw an Archon without a cave, just because like you can find the Archon for the right situation. Like certain configurations we could have, if you put like Quick and Mill into one of these Archons, I think that would be a good combination because all the Lanu Pause sites that are running around, you basically play an Archon to counter a Lanu Pause site. Right. You could put like +1/+1 and minus power, so you can have one be a removal spell. Mm-hmm. And then if your deck's filled with other troops that are reasonable and expensive, we could, Primordial Caves is good even when you don't have Archon in your hand.
Yeah. What do you think? Should we go Sapphire or Blood? I mean, like they're both good choices.
I think Blood answers the what's the rabbit answer question better than Sapphire does.
Sapphire does.
I suppose if we played Sapphire, we could play Yesterday though, which does buy time against the rabbit and bounce all of our stuff back to our hand in order to trigger the caves.
Yeah, I really kind of want to play some of the specific Dino ones. And the thing that when I looked at this card the first time that came to mind was actually, where is he? This guy, Savage Lord, which says at the start of your turn, top card of your deck is a dinosaur. You put it into play, so the dinosaur troops you control have speed. So maybe I was thinking about this wrong. I think I thought about this wrong. I thought it went into your hand and then you played it, so that's wrong. So it's a good thing I actually read the cards. So that doesn't really help our cause there. So maybe that's not the best.
Yeah, I don't think you really have to be on like a dino theme. One of the best ways to make combos like this work is probably just like build a reasonable deck around it that just like happens to have this backdoor Primordial Caves win.
Right. Yeah, with a decent amount of troops. I mean, we do kind of still want to play a decent amount of troops to it. Okay, so yeah, we'll go with the Blood thing. So we'll go ahead and start out with the Blood and the Wild and Shardless. And probably Kagulichu or...
Yeah, I don't hate Kagulichu. You just like fill in answer the rabbit questions first, just like load up the 4 Extinctions and the 4 Inquisitions.
Right. It's not exactly going to be in a cheap deck. We might as well just, put the what's his name in here as well, Hierophant, right off the bat as well.
Yeah, that's probably not the worst. So Argus came up a couple of times because he begins with A. We could maybe put a reanimation package in here and play a couple of that one.
Yeah, I mean, I love Argus. He's definitely a great control card for the deck.
And if you draw it while Caves is out, it gives you a Dino.
Yeah, yeah, for
It
sure, right
gives you
away.
a Dino plus.
Plus, yeah, an Argus that just ties up the board states. Artifacts have always been somewhat difficult to deal with. He's got 5 toughness. I mean, that's always good as well.
And like just 5 power flight, like that crushes through a lot of stuff.
Get that Hierophant in here. Of course, we're gonna go with the. Well, actually, we could go. Are we doing reanimation on him? You think in this deck, or are we going rhinos? I think we go reanimation, don't we? Pretty much with Kagulichu.
Yeah, we could definitely start with the grave digging gem on it. Grave digging and spell shield.
Yeah, and you can always switch streams in between. What's going on? Urnaz, maybe. I'll think about it. I'll put it there for now. Well, typically when I'm building decks, I'll build up and then tear down. I have ideas, and then I start focusing after. That's usually the way I do it.
Probably
Father.
place at a giant corpse fly.
Yeah.
That card's sweet because if we want to play reanimation cards, you can make yourself discard and then rise from the grave it.
Let's see. Rise. That's the one we can empower, right? No, it's not it. Grave.
Is that the right one?
Grave offering. You're talking about grave offering, the one you can empower for 8.
No, rise again. So you could like put Argus right into play.
Rise again. Okay. Yeah, like 2 of these. Some people were playing what's it called for a while, the wild blood one that actually does damage.
Rotten Rancor.
Rotten
Yep.
Rancor. People were playing that for a little while.
Yeah, that one's tough. When I was playing the decks with reanimation cards in them, I kept having awkward moments where like my opponent only had a spell shield troop or they had no troop, and I was like, I really wish I could just put something into play.
Yeah.
And the upside of Rise Again is that it can target troops in their crypt as well, which
Right.
means if they bring in random things to like hose your crypt, Rise Again isn't a dead draw.
Are we doing Root Father in here? I think we do Root Father. The thing is, like, what gems? Because we already used up some gems on our Kagulichu.
Yeah, there's probably honestly not room for
Root Father.
Root Dead in here.
Root Daddy.
Root Daddy.
No, but he does do something interesting for us because he comes into our hand, right? And he's 8, and then we can cycle him. I mean, that does do what we're trying to do for 2. There's a possibility. We don't have control as much as we do with the Archon, but it does do that for us. Balthazar seems like if we do that, we're kind of going ramp into Balthazar if we decide to go that direction. Is there anything else that's a troop? I should probably just look at troops that cycle really well. Maybe just a lot of cycling troops.
I think Root Dad's about it. And the Archon. Honestly, I don't think the Primordial Caves needs that many enablers, especially if we've got like the 4 Archons and a couple of the 12 drops.
Mm-hmm. Are we playing
Just like-
Extinction? We're playing Extinction, right?
Yeah, definitely four of them.
Yeah. Still good. I remember back in the day, like when we only had like 2 sets, people were like, play Extinct. There's only 2 kinds of decks, those with Extinction and those without.
And the Extinction decks and the decks that die to Extinction.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, it was kind of like along those lines. I still love Ambusher. It's not as good as it used to be. Wakizashi Ambusher. It's nice, it's a little body on a stick. Oh, Inquisitor's an automatic for this deck, though. Because it just keeps coming back, right? Oh, and then there's the other new Inquisitor guy.
Oh,
we
geez.
can play him.
Inquisitor's cost increases, too, right?
Yeah, so, yeah. So the
Yeah, that seems-
Inquisitor,
Inquisitor-
and then there's
Inquisitor
the
seems
new
great.
Inquisitor guy that kind of does similar things. I don't know if his body's good enough, though.
New Inquisitor. What is that?
There's another guy that does the same thing an Inquisitor does, but he doesn't do it as well. He's in set 4. Let me see here. Set 4. And he's in blood, and I think he costs... I want to say he costs 5. Grim Martyr... Nope, not that guy. I want to say he costs 5. So it's probably like a common or an uncommon. He's probably not going to work out for us, if I remember right. I'm looking for him. Zozo might be okay, now that I'm seeing him.
Zozo cycles back into the deck. He's a little awkward.
Let's see. I want to say it costs 5. Because I see it in draft once in a while. Maybe it costs 4? You're like, Squire, you're searching for a card that doesn't exist.
Yeah, as I say, I searched. I'm not sure which one you're talking about. That it keeps coming back to your hand.
Yeah, it keeps coming back. Well, the Freak of Nature, can we get this back? Wow, this is in your crypt, pay 4.
It goes back into play.
Goes back into play, that doesn't help. I swear it's here. I just don't know what it's called. If someone in chat is probably gonna find it before I do, I bet. Shift 1, life drain. I swear there's a card that does this though.
It exists.
Believe
me.
Believe me. Oh gosh. I don't know if you have any other ideas while I'm looking for this card that doesn't exist.
We're sitting here, so we want to get some Inquisitions in here probably. That's good general disruption and beats the Hierophant. We can talk about different gems for the Archon. I think this is probably like a 3 to 4 Shard Prism deck possibly, so we could even like splash some off-colored gems in the Archon and not feel super bad about it. I think having an Archon with the mill gem in it is fantastic. I think that's really good against the Prophecy stuff right now.
I'm still looking for this
Cottontail Explorer is great. That card's wonderful and encourages you to play a lot of shards.
Yeah, I'm not finding this card. I'll find it later. But let's get those Inquisitions. Let's get everything else hooked up because we only have so much time. We have to press and not look for holy grails. Okay, Inquisition, Explorer. I'm not in Wild anymore. I wonder if it was in a different shard. That would be embarrassing. Cottontail. Oh, okay. That's probably what it is. Necrophet. Hold on. Necrophet. I think it's bad, though. I don't think it's actually going to be good enough for us. Okay, here it is. So it costs... It's a 5/3... You can shift its ability. When it dies, put it into your hand. It gets cost +2. So maybe as a one of, this is okay. Maybe. We can shift its ability to something else, and then keep bringing that thing back and do fun stuff with that. Maybe.
I don't know about that one. He looks a little deep for my taste.
Yeah, I mean, as a one of, we're shifting his ability over to like Urnaz or something, or Corpse Fly, or Cottontail Explorer probably wouldn't be that good. Now, shifting his ability onto a Hierophant would be kind of cute. It's probably too cute. It's probably gonna get cut. But you know, I'll leave all my ideas on the table, and then I cut everything back. It's probably gonna be in the first round of cuts.
Is there another Shin here we could play? We are We're probably like 3 Shinhair away from being able
from
to play
playing
the
the
Shinhair dual
shards.
shard. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've always liked ambushers, so we'll consider that for now. Of course, you've got Monsoon as a easy 2 of. You can justify that, especially when you're running Extinction. We already have our Digger. I actually did play against a Shinhair deck and lost to it last weekend. That was embarrassing. Grave Nibbler is okay. Sensei is probably better, especially if we wanted to actually combo that other guy and draw cards. Minion doesn't really work unless you're playing the champion where you can sacrifice things and get +2/+2.
Yep.
Keeper doesn't work unless you're all Shinhair.
I guess Monsoon's not terrible. It's probably just Sensei, in all honesty.
Yeah, it's
I love
probably
me a
Sensei.
Cantrip Rabbit.
Yeah, something like that. Especially because when we draw the cards, we put the things on, we could get free dinosaurs.
Yep.
Yeah. So you might be able to run 2 of the Shinhair shards in here, maybe, depending on if you run the 4 of Sensei, the 4 Hierophant, and then the 2 Monsoon, then you could run 2 or 3 of those shards and be.
We've got Cottontail Explorer too. I think the line's a lot lower for how many tribal you need. I think at about 10
12,
you're probably
10?
fine.
Wow.
Yeah, a 10.
4?
Yeah, for 4 of them's probably the 10's probably fine.
Wow.
Are you familiar with the Hypergeometric Distribution Calculator?
I'm gonna say no.
I'm gonna say no. Okay, sweet. So basically, it allows you to calculate rough probabilities number, and so like according to the hypergeometric distribution calculator, with 10 Shinhair in your deck in your opening hand of 7, you're about 74% to have a Shinhair in your opening 7 with 10 of them.
I just want to see if I can find a decent 1-drop that I can at least consider. I love having something on turn 1, at least 1 card. In this format, I've seen a lot of decks recently that really it seems like it's not a good thing. Probably like you said, because of transmografade.
Yep.
Probably because of that. But there may be a card, like a spell or something we can play at 1.
I think the closest thing is like Withering Touch, but that doesn't seem.
No,
wait,
no, that's not really.
Is our troop count going to be high enough? Oakhenge Ceremony, that's a 1 or is that a 2?
That's a 1. That's a 1 for sure.
Yeah, we could play Ceremony. It finds one of the combo pieces. Also helps you find Shinhair or Rune consistently for turn 3.
I mean, we could also even consider playing the guy that turns into Oakhenge Ceremony, but
that doesn't fill the 1-drop role.
That might be too cute. Call of the Grave puts the cards back into our hand, and that seems to fit what we're doing pretty well.
But you're never going to do that on the first turn, right? That's what we're looking for?
No, you're not. I mean, we're kind of looking for that, but I'm also looking for things that fill that space-ish. Blood Mist, target true gets... I mean, you could also run just one of the dinos. That probably doesn't really help, though. Killblade. But that...
Oakhenge Ceremony also, like with the random 12-drop in our deck, once we have Caves out, it counts as being put into your hand to trigger that as well.
Yeah. We got Wild Growth doesn't... Wild Growth is a different deck. The Troll doesn't work. You got Howling Brave if you want to turn... You could play 1 Howling Brave and get a turn 2 sometimes of your guy. Of your Hierophant. Just so you have once in a while you get a turn 2 Hierophant. It also ramps you into some of this other really big stuff. You're just not playing wolves. It feels bad when I'm not playing wolves and I end up playing those. Okay, so here we go. We got 49 cards. That means we need to get rid of at least, what was that, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12, probably 13 cards. Because we probably want to have 24 shards in here.
Yeah, 24. One of the things that I always like to do in these type of decks too is you can play like 26 or even 27 shards with the extra 2 to 3 being Shard Prisms, because then they're like pseudo shards, like they're shards early when you need resources, but they're not later. And like Cottontail Explorer drawing Shard Prism in the late game is gas because it's basically like your Explorer cantripped.
Right. Okay. So right off the bat, I guess we'll go ahead and cut the Necrophet. I do think it's cute in here, but it probably doesn't do you a lot of good. If you don't have your Inquisitors, it's not that bad. It's not as good as Inquisitor because Inquisitor is virtual removal, but that's a card you could consider playing with for a while until you can, you know, spend the, what is this, $3 for an Inquisitor, $1.25 for an Inquisitor. So you can spend the, whatever it is, almost $5 to buy a playset of Inquisitor. Inquisitor is still going to give you a lot of play value over until set 1 rotates, which we're still not sure when the rotation is going to happen or what's going to happen or how that's going to work. If it's going to be after set 4 and we go to 5 and then it'll rotate, or if we'll go all the way to set 6. My guess is once we cross into set 7, that's when we'll see a rotation, but we'll see.
Howling Brave's an easy cut. You probably don't want to play that in our deck playing Extinction.
Yeah. Yeah, we can cut that guy out.
I think the Ambusher's probably too cute.
Yeah, the Ambusher. Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna play him, maybe you play as a one of or something. He's probably much better if you just play the Shinhair deck with the sacrificing. He's probably much better in there. Let's see. We've got the Inquisitors. We definitely want 4 Inquisitors. I don't think I want to go down on those, because that's,
yeah, that card's sweet for sure.
With the Primordial Caves, like Inquisitor was like a must 4 of back in the set 1 and set 2 days, and then people figured out ways to deal with it, and then like eventually we got hosers for it, and then we had main decked things that really dealt with it well. But let's see, there's really not a lot of things in the metagame that are placing things out of play or reducing its toughness to 0. And even if they do, that's fine. I'll just play it anyways and get more counters on my Primordial Caves, you know? So I think that's fair.
I think Uranaz might be a little bit ambitious.
Yeah,
I think our top end bomb is. I really want to try and play Argus. I think that's sweet with the caves, and I think that could be our top end like obnoxious thing.
Yeah, and it works fine. I think that's perfectly fine. It's a great target for Rise Again as well when it ends up in our crypt.
Correct, and like Kagulichu and Cottontail Explorer can randomly just flip it down there.
Oh yeah, for sure. This is tough because we got to get rid of another 4 cards. So maybe go down like 1 Corpse Fly.
We don't need the. I guess we don't need the ceremony, right? I think it's fine just starting on 2.
We don't. Yeah, if we're at 24 shards, we should be fine.
Maybe we don't need. Maybe we don't need Monsoon. We're at,
Monsoon?
without Monsoon, we're at 12 Shinhair, right? So with him, we're at 14. So 12 is probably fine.
Okay. Yeah, I feel much more comfortable playing 4 shards on 12 of the cards. So just for everybody that doesn't know, basically we're trying to play a shard that says we need to have Shinhair in order to get to Blood or Wild. And then additionally, if we have both of those and we don't really need Blood or Wild anymore, and we have a Shinhair in play, it gives us an 0-1 Battle Hopper, which in this deck is mostly just cannon fodder for us to block with. But mostly we just need the fixing on it. Got a lot of double threshold in here.
Yeah.
We probably need the 2 Rise Again for sure. And the 4 Inquisition. Let's see. We're playing Primordial Caves because that's what our deck does. So we have to keep those at 4. A lot of times I'll build decks and I'll be like, oh, I really want to try to do this card, and then I'll end up like taking that card down to like 2.
Yep. Maybe we just don't play the flies.
Well, I took it down to 3. I mean, if we take them down to 1, we're at 36. I mean, we're basically there on the deck.
Explorer, I kind of want a Shard Prism or 2 to 25 or 26. I think I would probably cut the flies and maybe 1 Inquisitor and play 26 shards with 2 Shard Prism.
Yeah, I just feel like you're going to flood so hard. I mean, I guess the Cottontail Explorer helps a lot.
Yeah, Cottontail Explorer helps. Like, Cottontail Explorer is better with the more shards you have. And you have to remember, too, like I said, the 2 extra shards past 24 are prisms. So, like, when you would be flooding on those, you're not actually flooding.
Right. You're just taking extra turns. It depends. If you're getting aggroed, it's bad. Otherwise, it's fairly good.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you're getting aggroed, those Shard Prisms are going to help you consistently hit Shard 4 on time, so you can just Extinction them.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, I think I would go to the 35 because I just love having Inquisitor around and play the Shard Prism, like you said. But yeah, this is fine. We can do that, and we can go ahead and shard it up. And we've got 5 minutes left in the episode, and we're on time. And again, deck build to Squire. We basically build concepts here. We don't end up playing the decks. So it takes time. You have to take your time, play the deck, and then you may say to yourself, well, I really need to have that 4th Inquisitor and 1 less Shard Prism. Or you may say, I really needed to have, I don't know, this and that in the meta game, or it just isn't curving properly. Basically, we build a deck. We look to see if we have a good curve on it. We have our concepts are down. We're focused. That's mostly what we're building on deck build the Squire. And then we also have cats that meow at us. Alright, so let's get the shards going. Actually, I could probably just go resources and do it that way. That'd be easier. And I believe this is the one for the shin hair. Yep, here's your shin hair one. This one is $1.80. That's not too bad for those. A lot of times it feels bad when I have to go out and buy resources for my decks, because even though I know that they enable the deck, they make it function, it just feels bad when I have to buy those. But
Yeah,
I do. Go ahead.
it's always funny. I can tell when someone mostly has just played Hex, and when someone comes from a Magic background, you like talk about how much cards cost. Because like,
Yeah.
I say to a Magic player, like, well, this deck's like it's like $100, and they're like, oh man, that's cheap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like, yeah, there are some complaints even in Hex where people are like, oh man, the tier 1 decks cost $50. And I'm like, that's like one card in Magic sometimes.
It's like a fourth of a dual land.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, like, I remember spending $40 on Gideon, the original Gideon. So,
Yep. The Gideon that's standard legal right now is 50.
yeah, so it is what it is, right?
Yep.
So Shard Prism, maybe 3 Shard Prisms or 2?
I think I'd start with 2. 3's probably a little greedy.
A little ambitious, yeah. So we also have to do our curve. So typically what I do to do my curve when I look at it is I just get a ratio. So our ratio here, we've got 26 blood icons or shards, and then we've got 16 wild icons. So it's like a 2-3. So what that says to me is I would go with a 10-6 split is what I would do.
Yeah, I
on
like
the
10-6
shards.
a lot. Seems great, especially because you need double blood earlier than we need double wild.
Right. So what this is this is not exactly 2/3. This is a little bit better than 2/3 for the wild side of things, and that's typically what I do, is like something like that. We also have a lot of fixing here, so quite honestly, we have, if you count these as both, 8 plus 6, which would be 14 wild chances, plus the Shard Prism, so that's 16 chances at wild, and then 10 plus 8 is 18, so 20 chances at blood. So 1 out of every 3 cards is going to give us blood, which is really important because we have to Inquisition on turn 2. That's important.
Yeah, so to throw a little math in there, the Hypergeo with 18 blood sources, you're 76% turn 2 on the play to have double blood.
There you go. And that's pretty much it. We have to do the giveaway after the show, and we're ready to close things out. But, you know, Jeff, we've gone this whole time. You haven't plugged your content, so go ahead and tell the people where they can find you.
So you can find my stuff on Twitch and YouTube, just / Jeff Hoogland on both of those. I stream Hex twice a week is my current schedule, at minimum twice a week. We have some random extra I'm on late and feel like playing days, but Tuesday and Thursday afternoons, U.S. daytime, I start about noon Central Standard Time and go till about 5 or 6 o'clock, depending on how we're doing. So twice a week you can find me there. And then if you miss any of my streams, my YouTube channel, I upload everything and I break it up by deck that we're playing. So if you want to just look at just a specific deck, you don't have to dig through an archive. You can find it all there.
All right. So tonight on Deck Build the Squire, we had Jeff Hoogland, because I can now pronounce his name correctly, on the show. We talked about a lot of the quality of life updates with Hex, the Spectral Acorns, the fact that the 5 shards is not happening on July 4th, so go watch some fireworks. And then we built this pretty awesome deck. Of course, we are getting the in the next patch they've confirmed, as long as everything works out, we're getting ladder. We're getting ladder after the update. And then we built this pretty awesome deck. It seems interesting. Obviously, like every deck on Deck Build Squire, needs some work to really get it going. But I think there's definitely some legs here for something interesting. Probably tier 3, maybe tier 2.5-ish. And that was pretty much it. So, yeah.
Sweet. Thanks for having me on, man.
All right. Till next time, this is Aaron Squire signing off, saying God bless your families. Try not to raise too much out there.